Okay, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Ask a Health Coach webinar. We're excited to have two of our health coaches that work with Solera diabetes prevention programs with us today. And we started this idea because we had a webinar a couple months ago on mindful eating, and a lot of questions came up at the end, very specific to people's different habits and diets. And so we thought this would be a great way to allow people to ask their questions. So today we have with us Tom Purcell, who is the Wellness and Membership Director at Simon Family JCC in Virginia Beach. So welcome, Tom. And we also have Karen Hansen, a dietitian from the Johnson County Department of Health, which is in Kansas City area. And they're both health coaches for diabetes prevention programs offered through Solera. So you can be, they're going to go over some of their top tips that they hear from questions they get all the time from their members and participants in the program. And then we'll turn it over to you to ask questions. And so you'll want to just look in your Zoom kind of toolbar. There should be a Q&A section, and you can ask your questions in there. I got a few of them in advance from people, so we'll start with those, but otherwise feel free to enter some in the Q&A section. All right, we're moving on to our top 5 fitness tips, so I'll turn it over to Tom. Tom, can you unmute?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, great, excellent. Well, thank you for having me today. I'm looking forward to going over the fitness tips and any questions you may have. So let's start off. Number 1, schedule a meeting with yourself. And what I mean by that is we're so tied into our schedule each day, particularly with our phones. And if you're busy like I am, I have to schedule everything from my clients that I have throughout the day to my meetings to even my family when my children have to be run around for different games and practices and so forth, and even date nights with my wife. So unfortunately, I have to schedule everything. So even as a trainer, I've been training for 25 years, I schedule workout times for myself throughout the day, and that way I can get the exercises in. If not, even as a professional, I have to find time to exercise. So scheduling with yourself is a great way to make sure you set aside a certain time. And that's probably one of the most important schedule or meetings you can make. And so put that in your schedule somewhere, somehow to stay with it. So that's the key to staying consistent and control what you can control. Well, number 2 is we can't control hardly anything in life as much as we try. We try to control others. We try to control anything beyond our ability. And really what we can control is ourselves. So when I have clients that I'm working with, I basically say, listen, you know, if health is important to you, and hopefully it is, then we need to make sure that we can control our actions. And actions by being, let's stay consistent. And that also goes back to that number 1 of setting that meeting for yourself. So make sure that you can control what you can. And you can control yourself as far as how you schedule your life. And also when you take in your certain exercise and also your nutrition, which I know our nutritionists will go over as well. So control what you can control. Set personal goals per week. And I have folks that run marathons, triathlons, and they set certain goals for so many steps per day. So try not to go beyond a large goal, like trying to climb Mount Everest, for instance, but try to set mini goals. These little trackers we have today with the Fitbits and the Apple phones, we can track every step we have. So that's a great way to start. I'm going to start with so many steps per day. Some people start at 5,000 steps a day or 10,000. Seems to be a magic number that equates to about 5 miles. So let's start at little things we can do each day to make ourselves healthy, even if it's getting on the floor and do 10 push-ups. I'm going to do 10 push-ups today for the next 3 days in a row. So start with little things that are healthy that make sure they keep the body moving and also that keeps you in a regular, consistent basis. So we want to try to do that, set those little goals for ourselves. Don't try to get too big as you get smaller and get bigger with it. Get education on your body. A lot of folks don't know much about our bodies. We know everything else outside of ourselves. We know a lot about history and math and all these other great things, but we know very little, you know. And when I ask folks in seminars, what is your blood pressure? Okay, most people say, okay, I know my blood pressure. Well, what do the numbers mean? What does 120 over 80 really mean? So what does blood pressure really mean in your body? So find out those things in your body. It's a magnificent piece of equipment. I say it's the greatest invention ever created is the human body. So let's find out about what's going on in here to really take care of it, because the more you have knowledge of it, the better you can take care of it. So that's the thing, is just try to get education about your body. It's fascinating. So let's try to get educated on that. And lastly, but not least, is have fun. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Try to go out there and find activities that you like. If you're not a runner, I love to run. That's my outlet. But it's not for everybody. Go for a bike ride. Go play in the yard with your kids. Go have a nice leisurely walk with your friends. Go swimming. There's so many activities, so things. Find something that you really love to do and stick with it. And hopefully it's a multiple thing, so you can change it up a little bit so things don't get boring for you. So you want to go out there and have fun and take a break. Don't put pressure on yourself. It's the consistency of it. It's trying to find a lot more about your body. Make sure you stay scheduled, and then you just have fun. So give yourself a mental break and just go out there and have fun. You're taking care of your body. It's a great thing. Everybody benefits, not only yourself, but also your family and friends.
I agree. Thanks, Tom. Karen, can you chat yet? I think she is still having problems with her microphone. So I'm going to just go to a couple of questions, Tom, if you don't mind. We're going to skip over this and talk a little bit about some of the questions we had for more in the fitness area. We had asked, we had asked about exercises specifically for people who have those lower back or sciatica problems.
Mm-hmm.
There's any in there.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, well, lower back obviously is a big issue. It's very common to have. It's one of the most common type of elements, that and knees and of course shoulders. So with lower back, you want to watch any ballistic type exercise or any impact type exercise. So it depends on the degree of back issues and sciatic issues. Running's typically not a good exercise to have. I know that folks have gone to swimming. We have more buoyancy. There's less impact, so it's easier on the joints. So you might want to look at going to the pool and doing some pool exercises if you're not a swimmer. For instance, at the facility we actually have a bike and a walking treadmill in a therapy pool. It's about a 94-degree pool that we have folks that have arthritic problems or bone or joint issues that we have them go to the pool. Or it could be that you're a little bit more active and you could increase your activity a little bit harder with the intensity. You know, maybe elliptical trainer or a new step or a recumbent bike, possibly. But with the sciatic nerve, it depends on the location of the problem. Stretching and flexibility exercises are very key. And that's key to any exercise, but you want to make sure that you get your flexibility exercises in. And that should be done on a daily basis for folks. And really all of us should do that. So I would watch impact exercises and make sure you concentrate on flexibility.
Good idea. I think, Karen, are you on?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yay. I'm going to try to go up and let you go over kind of your top nutrition ideas, and then we'll move to all the Q&A.
Okay, perfect. And I do apologize with the technology today. I am a little late getting on board. But I'm really excited to be a part of this very important webinar. So thank you for this. And for all of you attending out there, I'm going to share some tips that I think as a registered dietitian I hear a lot of questions on, and things that I think are probably the highlights. So first of all, I always encourage people to consider this is really truly a lifestyle change, not a diet. An interesting statistic I recently heard was that by 2020, which is just next year, 2/3 of all of our illnesses will be a result of lifestyle factors. And that is a staggering statistic. But fortunately, I think it's one we can all improve upon. Quite simply, by including the healthiest food choices eaten in sensible amounts within a good time frame, along with what Tom just spoke on, the daily physical activity, we can go a long way toward improving our health and that scary statistic that I just shared. I always like to use the analogy of a pendulum swinging with my patients or the people I work with. There are two extremes. At one side, you have that extreme where people are overeating and they're just out of control with their eating, and they get to feeling guilty. On the other side of the pendulum, you have rigid diets with rules and foods you have to avoid and only those you can eat and strict time schedules. So what I like to tell people to do is find that sweet spot in the middle of the pendulum where you're not over there on one extreme or the other, but you're actually living a lifestyle that allows for just a moderate eating plan and physical activity and just a real peaceful place, if you will. Secondly, plan ahead, beginning with a menu and a grocery list. I think it's important that we understand the importance of planning ahead. One of the things that I find staggering too is that 80% of people at 4 o'clock in the afternoon have no idea what they're having for dinner that evening. And that often leads to a quick trip through drive-up windows or the local fast food establishments, not the best alternative to making those good, healthy choices. By planning ahead, I think we can make choices that we feel good about and that our bodies honestly benefit from. I encourage people to maybe plan a time to sit down with their family and a calendar. I used to do this. My husband and I have 4 children. I used to do this all the time with them. It was a good chance to everybody to plug into, okay, I'll be home this evening or not that evening, and just be able to make a family menu. It's a great opportunity to involve everybody. And from that, then you can make your grocery list and at the same time check your supply of food at home to make that, so you're helping your budget as well. Also consider organizing your kitchen and pantry for success, which one thing I do is I keep a small salad bar in my refrigerator. I just taught this class to my diabetes prevention program people, but I keep a little 9x13 pan in the refrigerator, and I keep on that everything that I would get off of the salad bar. So in the evening, I can do a quick supper by just pulling out my own little salad bar, filling my plate half with veggies and greens and different things, and then topping it. So there's so many simple little things you can do like that that make a huge difference. And another thing I like to encourage is people to eat the My Plate method. And this replaced the food guide pyramid years ago. And I think the My Plate method is just a good visual tool that we can all use. Basically, you fill your plate half full of mostly vegetables and some fruit, plus a quarter of lean protein and whole grain starches. You can add a dairy serving to the side, whether it's yogurt, milk, or some cheese on something. And you can create a very nutritionally balanced meal. The fourth thing I like to do is encourage people to eat food and drink water on a regular schedule. And sometimes we don't think about the schedule as being that important, but when we're talking about every 4 to 5 hours, fueling our body with a good combination of carbohydrates, proteins, fiber, you name it, all these things impact our blood sugar levels and make us feel more energetic and healthier. So I think it's important to think about, what does my schedule look like? Am I doing my body well by doing this schedule that allows for the best energy optimization? Fifth, I like to seek out supporters and avoid sabotagers. Those are the people who, if you will, encourage you in your healthy habits, maybe join in with you actually. Surrounding yourself with these people who really care about your health and your success will make lasting changes in your lifestyle. I think it'll add great success to your and their efforts. In fact, adding a buddy or a team will increase your success rate many times over as you encourage each other in this journey. So those are just some quick 5 tips. I'm happy to answer questions. I know there's always a lot of individual questions when it comes to nutrition and eating. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. I was totally busted on that comment about how people don't know what they're eating at 4 p.m., although inspired by that picture, I might have salmon and asparagus.
There you go. That would be a super healthy meal.
So we do have a lot of questions about keto. And so how does keto affect women with diabetes and in their 40s? What are the major risks to watch out for?
Well, the keto diet is kind of the new, I say new, it's been around a while, but as a dietitian, to be honest, the only time I've ever really used the keto diet in patient care is for epilepsy, for seizure control, especially in young children. That said, the keto diet basically is a very rigid plan that puts a person into what we call ketoacidosis, which basically means that when you don't provide your body the nutrition it needs from carbohydrates, because primarily you leave carbohydrates all but maybe 5 to 20 grams of carbohydrate a day. You're primarily leaving that whole food group out. And when you do that, your body has to have fuel to continue to live from somewhere. So you end up breaking down your own muscle mass and your fat masses for fuel. And so this is a dietary regimen that I've had people come to me, they're doing it. I do have concerns about the long-term effects of using the keto diet. So I would be very aware and do some good searches on the health benefits and the health detrimental effects of the keto.
Yeah. It's good info. Thank you. So Tom, I'm going to turn over a question to you. And the question was, does weight training burn as many calories as doing cardio in a 30-minute time frame?
That's an excellent question. I get that all the time. So we have to look at the systems here, the cardiovascular system versus the muscle work of tearing the muscles down. In cardio work, obviously, it depends on the intensity, depends on the person's weight and their ability. You're going to burn calories as you're in the moment in cardiovascular training. So, for instance, if I'm running on a treadmill, and if I'm running at 8.5 miles an hour, I'm going to burn about 400 to possibly 500 calories for 30 minutes because of my weight and my intensity of running. So that's what the caloric burn is going to be during that time frame. Now, as I do weight training, obviously my heart rate doesn't get up quite as high. So the rate of calorie burn in my weight training is not going to be as much in that given moment. But where it turns is the repair process of muscle. If you break the muscle down over time, it's going to have to repair itself over the next 24 to 48 hours. You will actually burn more calories because your metabolism increases over that period of time. So it's really a tough question to answer because in the given moment, I do burn calories with cardio more so in the moment. But overall, with weight training, as long as you stay consistent with it, you can actually probably burn more calories overall with weight training probably. So I like the combination of both. I don't like one or the other because I really think you're telling it to two different systems. But if you're actually asking in that moment, then I would say the cardio burns in that moment more so within 30 minutes. But the after effect of weight training, you're going to raise your metabolism. So over time, you're going to burn more calories as well.
So, and a pound of muscle weighs more than a pound of fat. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Absolutely. And when I have clients that initially start to exercise and they notice that their fat cells are decreasing, meaning the waistline, let's say, are decreasing, they'll notice in their clothes. So their clothes will start feeling looser than previous, So, but what they've noticed that they get on the scale, it's either the weight has not budged or they might have gained a pound or two. Right. And it's very discouraging when they use the weight or the scale as the ultimate goal, because I do not recommend that at all. We're going to lose weight, but for most people, they want to lose inches. They want to feel better and look better and so forth. So I don't like to use the scale necessarily as the sole deterrent whether it's success or fail. Use your clothes, number one, your inches around, because I always say body fat and muscle are apples and oranges. They're not the same, okay? So yeah. I asked a client, if you look at a tennis ball and you look at a golf ball, which is larger, a golf ball or tennis ball? Which is larger? Which is a larger ball?
Tennis ball.
The tennis ball is going to be a larger in circumference, right?
Right.
Versus a golf ball, right? But golf ball is smaller. What do you think weighs more, golf ball or tennis ball?
A golf ball.
Why does it weigh more than tennis ball? Tennis ball is bigger.
But it's full of filling.
It's dense. Think dense muscle. It's dense, it's tight, it's going to weigh more. The tennis ball does not. So what do you want to be? You want to be a golf ball? Or you want to be a tennis ball? You got dense muscle in the golf ball.
Yeah. Okay, Karen, I got a question for you. What are good alternatives for proteins for teens that do not like whole meat, but they'll eat hot dogs?
This sounds like a pretty common issue. Actually, when it comes to protein in the diet, surprisingly, we don't often need as much as we think we do a lot of times. But I would encourage those teens or those children, and even adults, we all know that we have people that we know of like this, but to think of dairy. Obviously, dairy products are a good, what we call protein, complete protein. You have to understand that protein is made of what we call building blocks, and there are 21 amino acids that make protein. 9 of those are what we call essential, which means we cannot make them in our body. We have to get them in our food, in our diets. And so when we talk about a complete protein like meat or dairy or eggs, products like that, those are actually what we call complete proteins. They have all the essential amino acids in them. Unlike sometimes, we have to combine proteins sometimes. Like if you put whole wheat bread and peanut butter together, now you have what we call a complete protein. All essential amino acids are there. Whereas protein or peanut butter by itself, or maybe the whole wheat bread by itself wouldn't have all. So sometimes it's a matter of knowing how to combine proteins, but some foods out there are complete. So I would encourage things like yogurt, dairy, cheeses and milk, eggs. And then also we have some whole grains. Quinoa, for example, is also what we call a complete protein, which has all the essential amino acids. Quinoa is a great, it's really come on very popular in the last 5 years. Quinoa is a great whole grain that offers all those protein amino acids as well.
Great. Now, Tom, I'm switching over to you. We have a question about HIIT.
HIIT.
Yes.
High intensity interval training. HIIT. Yes.
What's your
Just
opinion?
General, or is there? I'm sorry.
What's your opinion of it? Good, bad?
Oh, I love it. Well, HIIT is kind of a general term. HIIT can mean many things to many people as far as the workout goes. It's virtually endless the type of workouts that you can do with a HIIT type program, and it can also be modified for beginners, intermediate, and advanced exercisers. So, for instance, HIIT basically, if you're not familiar with the term, is high intensity interval training. Now, intensity is again a relative term based on your intensity. So just because it's intense for me might not be intense enough for somebody else. It's basically going to be based on your intensity levels. Okay. So what you want to do is, first of all, you would do a certain exercise as far as a lower intensity. Let's say we do bench press, for instance. Okay. So with dumbbells, that was going to be on a lower end where we just do moderate weights. Then we're going to get right up for 30 seconds. I'm going to do jump rope, or I'm going to get on a treadmill and run for 30 seconds, or I'm going to do a kettlebell swing for 30 seconds. Something's going to elevate my heart rate up to a higher level, possibly 80, 85, 90, 95% of my actual heart rate. Then I'm going to go back to a lower level exercise. So I'm going to go up and down of raising my heart rate, bringing it down, but it's continuous exercise. And I incorporate this a lot with my weight training. So you can actually get your cardio done and your strength training done at the same time. So you get to maximize your time, your effort, and also can maximize and burn a lot of calories at the same time. So I highly recommend it for people that are limited in time, say 30-minute workouts. They want to get a lot done. And also they want to try to bring their exercise levels up to a higher level than normally.
Yeah. I know I've tried it. It's hard though, but you're right. You have to figure out your own intensity. So we have a lot of questions about if you're pre-diabetic, somebody was diabetic, but is avoiding fruits also important because you're not supposed to have any sweets? And so what about fruit, Karen? Is that okay when you're
Great question. And I do get that question a lot. Fruit, I encourage people to use fruit in the pre-diabetic or the diabetic diet. Fruit, when we eat it, has, while it has some simple sugars in it as far as the actual fruit itself, but you're combining it with fiber. And the fiber, and when you eat fruit, it goes in and has to be broken down. It takes longer to break it down due to the fiber content of the fruit. Therefore, we don't see quite the surge or the uptake of glucose as rapidly as if you ate a candy bar, for example, okay? So I highly recommend fruit in moderation through the day at intervals, not all, at once, but eating fruit, a serving of fruit with meals or something like that is perfectly acceptable. And in fact, I encourage it because of the nutrient profile of the fruit and all the great antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals and such that it provides as well.
Yeah, great. We had a question about, and I don't even know this one, but for Tom, for metabolic workout programs like RIP 90, is it better to do a 16-8 split intermittent fasting or 3 meals a day with snacks? Does that make sense?
That speaks towards intermittent fasting. Would you like me to answer that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's nutrition.
All right, let me go with that. Intermittent fasting, right now, there's 3 different types of intermittent fasting. There's like alternate day fasting, which means you rotate days of eating and days of fasting. There's a second type of intermittent fasting called modified fasting. It involves eating little amounts of food on the fasting days, like less than 500 calories typically. And then there's also a time-restricted fasting, which is more what this is asking to, I think. When you talk about a 16-8 split, then you're fasting 16 hours and you're only eating during an 8-hour period. So my opinion really as a registered dietitian is that at this time, the science really is lacking as far as the long-term effects of intermittent fasting. We don't really know those yet. And they could pose a health risk for people who are like diabetic, pregnant women, breastfeeding women, individuals with a history of eating disorders or disordered eating. So I really caution people as far as just knowing if it is a fit for you or if maybe you're one of these groups that needs to be very cautious. So when it comes to intermittent fasting, and also the science right now is really showing that there's not a lot of difference in a weight loss of a person on intermittent fasting versus a person who is eating a smart, if you will, plan as far as the amount of calories and that physical activity included, and balancing that with just a good, healthy meal plan or a lifestyle.
Yeah. And then we're kind of getting close to our time, and I just want to share with everyone that I will send a recording of this, and I'll also capture all of the questions we got either before or after and ask Tom and Karen if they can answer those just via either email or we'll send out a Word document that you can look at. And so everyone can learn a little bit more. I do want to share just a quick note about Solera diabetes prevention programs that Tom and Karen participate in. And there's many different options through Solera. I'm just going to go if you haven't heard about this through your employer or your health plan, you can go to soleraforme.com webinars. And if you want to join one of the programs, if you live in Virginia Beach area or Kansas City, you can certainly look for one of the classes that Tom or Karen work on. So that would be great. So we're at time. I really appreciate and honored to have Tom and Karen with us. It was great information, and just from the questions, there's so many good ones. So we might have to have another one where we devote it just to nutrition or just to fitness. There's so many good questions out there and a lot of misleading or different kinds of information. So we appreciate you being our expert. And with that, we will thank you and wish you well on the rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Tom.
Okay, take care.